Well, good morning, fellow Rotarians. My name is Julie Dobski, and I'm honored to be your district governor-elect. Together, we're going to head into a new Rotary year on July 1st, and it's going to be another great year. Thank you all for participating in our first district webinar. We're going to give it a try, and at the end of the webinar, we have a survey for you that should come as no surprise, and we hope you will take a minute to share your thoughts with us about today. Right now, we're going to start a quick poll. It should appear on your screen. Please take a minute to answer, and we will share the results with you. So take time to do that, and if you are unable to answer the poll, as you might be in a group setting, someone in your group can use the chat feature to share your club's positions with us. Okay, let's see the results. We'll hold on a few seconds. Oh, very nice. So this is completed, I believe, with the club present, 67%. Very nice, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. As you can see, we have a lot of great positions represented. Thank you so much. And just a reminder that at the end of our webinar today, we're going to pull the names of 3 clubs, and each club will win a $500 award for their club to use any way they wish that they would like to see possible. So you have to be on the line, so make sure you are on the line at the end of the webinar. Now here's another poll. Again, if you're unable to answer the poll, as you might be in a group setting, someone in your group can use the chat feature to share your answers with us. Okay, let's see how you're feeling today. We'll get that result in a minute. Take time to do that. I know we're all excited. On July 1st, we're all going to be excited and terrified. Okay, let's get that poll answered. I guess they're all feeling wonderful.
They're still going.
Okay. We all know this is going to be the best year yet. I like the results. I really like it. Thank you so much. July 1st, here we come. Looks like we're all going to be in the same boat. Now, this is the best volunteer job ever. So let's have fun together. That's all I can say. And I want to thank the president-elects and the nominees who attended the Land of Lincoln Pets training with me in March. We had 29 of our 46 clubs represented, which is 63%. And I really enjoyed meeting all of you. Thank you for being there. Now at the training, I shared a folder of very vital information with president-elects. If you were not at the training and would like a copy of this folder, please make sure you email me or email the district for a copy. Included are my goals for the coming year. You know, I just love goals. So I have many attainable and very challenging goals for my year as district governor. As an example, my goals include that each club have their leadership team established. Your team should include a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and a membership chair. Your team should also include a president-elect, your successor, and a president-elect nominee. And club secretaries can enter these names in DACDB, our district and club database. Now, I also included in the folder a form for president-elects to complete. Now, this form will help me schedule club visits with you. I'll be sending out the form again to those president-elects who have not returned it yet. I have to say I'm very excited to visit your club and get to know your club members. I'm happy to visit a traditional club meeting, a club social, or a service project. I want you and your club to be as successful as can be. I'm here to help and I'm here to support. Starting July 1st, I will also be sending you and your team a weekly email. It will highlight district news, goals, and events. I hope it will keep everyone informed. The monthly district newsletter will continue, and it will be used to highlight your club news. The monthly newsletter is a great place to showcase your success, along with the district website and Facebook page. But most importantly, showcasing your club's success is a great way to promote your club promote your own club on your club's own website and social media, as well as through your local, more traditional media such as newspapers and radio. Next, I'd like to do a brief item of legislative business. I would like your support in approving the district member dues levy as required by Rotary International. Give you a second to take a look. President-elect. I am presenting for approval the budget. You should see it on your screen now, including proposed dues of $36 per member based on the number of club members for our district as of July 1st, 2019 in DAC-DB. Now, this was previously done in 2018 and is just as Rotary International requires. We have estimated our dues and income to be about $72,000 for the fiscal year from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Now, this dues amount is the same as prior years with no increase. Due to our ongoing management of cost and accumulated cash balance, we can keep the dues unchanged. In addition to keeping the dues unchanged, this year we are planning on some new things which will ultimately benefit our district and Rotary. We will provide a great district conference at little cost to our members, spending $13,500. And we certainly are going to encourage sponsorships. We will implement a program to provide dollars to district projects, additional $20,000. We have designated funds that we use, but we will add an additional $20,000. Our hope is that all clubs will apply for a district grant, which will be due September 1st. Remember that September 1st date. We will implement a plan to install a program or a curriculum to put the four-way test in schools where Rotarians and clubs have a presence. This will allow for more Rotary understanding and spread the news of our wonderful life living test for around $10,000. The remaining budget is like prior years in all other categories. So if you would give approval for our budget, we would appreciate that very much. I approve the Rotary District 6490 member dues levy for 2019-20. Everybody please say yes. And again, if you're in a group setting, please designate the president-elect to indicate your answer. It really, I believe who's allowed to vote is the president-elects. Yeah. Yeah, president-elects should be the only ones voting for this. Thank you so much. We're going to have a good year. Let's see, and again, information about the budget and new initiatives will be highlighted in my weekly email to you. Okay. Thank you all for voting. I also encourage you to consider having our visioning team to help set our goals for the year. We will give you more information if you are interested. It's a great team that comes to your club and helps with your visioning for the next year or two or three. So now I'm ready to turn it over to past District Governor Liz Skinner. Liz has had many roles in our district. She is a wonderful role model for many of us, and she is currently serving as our district's representative to Rotary International's Council on Legislation. She is joining us this morning from her home in Monticello to share an update with us. Welcome, Liz. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Julie, and for your kind words and for allowing me the opportunity to be here this morning to share with the attendees at this district assembly some of the very recent information from the Council on Legislation. I'll be sharing some information regarding the meeting that was held in Chicago from the 14th through the 18th of April. Before we begin, though, we've had a gauge of who you are and how you're reacting to this morning. I'm going to ask you a one-question quiz, and I'd like Jane to put that quiz up, and we'll see what your answer is to this before we start the presentation. We have about 20 seconds to respond. If you are in a group setting, you can get a consensus of your group, and I'll accept the answer of the consensus of the group. Okay. Are the votes in, Jane? Or we're still negotiating an answer? Okay, the correct answer is at a regular or special meeting of the Council on Legislation. There is no changes to the RI Constitution bylaws for the standard Rotary Club Constitution done at an annual convention or by the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors can indicate that they would like to see a change, but they have to present that to the Council on Legislation. So those of you who responded at the regular or special meeting of the Council were correct. Typically, it is done at a regular meeting of the Council. I don't know of any special meeting that has been called in the last large number of years. The Council is the legislative body of Rotary. There are 533 voting delegates in attendance at the 2019 Council and about 50 non-voting delegates. And it's interesting as they share their thoughts, opinions, and varying priorities depending on what part of the country they come from or what part of the world they come from. We had 116 enactments presented at this council, and yesterday I believe Jane sent out to each of you the changes that were made, and those were the enactments that were adopted by the council. That was 46 enactments of the 116 were adopted, and we approved one proposition. We'll talk a little bit more about the proposition a little later. When changes are, excuse me, when changes are made, the changes become effective on July 1 following the council. Since all clubs at the time of charter accept and agree to be bound by the RI Constitution and bylaws and adopt the standard club constitution, any changes approved by the council should be reflected in the club's documents. For this reason, after each council, the RI Manual of Procedure is updated by RI. And so this year, you should be receiving a 2019 Manual of Procedure. If you were to go online today and look for a Manual of Procedure, you would find the 2016 manual from the last council. And the Manual of Procedure does include these documents that we'll be talking about: the RI Constitution, the RI bylaws, and the standard Rotary Club Constitution. Now, I'm speaking specifically about those three documents. As you may know, the club bylaws can be customized to your particular club, but it's important when you do that to confirm that you're not in conflict with what the RI Constitution, the RI bylaws, and the standard club constitution mandate. I find it helpful to review the recommended bylaws that are also part of this manual procedure. And that helps you determine what your club is required to add or delete from your particular bylaws. Now, you received a listing of the accepted enactments, which will be the amendments to the various documents yesterday. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to go over with you some of the changes. And specifically, I'm not going to go over all 46, but the ones that deal with clubs and your connection with the clubs. The changes, for example, to the standard club constitution. And there, some of the important ones were makeups can now be made up within the same year. Prior to this, we had either 14 days before, 14 days after the day that you missed a meeting. One person per classification has been the standard. That has been replaced with a well-balanced membership. Remove all of the information about the one person and having just one per category and how that is to work. And additionally, they've added to the type of classification can be business, profession, occupation, or type of community service. Occupation was added because we now recognize that there are occupations that are members of Rotary, not just professions. Of interest possibly to a club president who doesn't have a successor named yet, if there is no successor to the club president, the way the standard club constitution reads is that the president will remain president. It reads until the successor is selected. And we've amended that to say the current president's term will be extended for 1 year only, which should bring some relief to current presidents who don't have a successor. The annual meeting of the club, there was a change made there. Right now it's held in December to select the new officers. As of this change, the annual meeting will include a report of activities and financials of the previous year and presentation of a budget forecast for the current year. That's to increase transparency in our clubs. If there is a club meeting being called to change the name or locality of a club, it was previously a 14-day notice. I don't think we do that too often, but that has been changed to 21 days. And that was specifically because the requirement now is to attend 2 meetings, and this way you would have attended potentially 1 meeting during that 21-day period. And finally, a very different standard club constitution and RI bylaws will appear in the next version, not necessarily because of all the changes that we've made here, but because the language has been modernized, streamlined, redundancies have been removed. As a matter of fact, they reduced the standard club constitution by about 15% and the RI bylaws by about 30%. So new, more streamlined, easier to read constitution and bylaws will be available. Those were specifically more to the standard club constitution. Changes to the RI bylaws and the RI constitution. The highlight, of course, was that Rotary clubs are admitted to RI membership. It reads in the RI constitution, RI is the association of clubs and Rotary clubs throughout the world. This elevates the status of Rotary and its members by acknowledging them as a unique type within RI. They're no longer just program participants or potential members. However, Rotary clubs will still be sponsored by Rotary clubs and will operate as they have in the past. This change was highly debated. President Barry was very supportive. Council members were somewhat concerned because it does raise the opportunity for RI to created dues structure for Rotaract. And they were also concerned about how this would work with the clubs. It failed in the first vote at the council, but it was brought back by someone who had voted against it, and it won in the second because the Rotaractors were very much in favor of this. And there was even some discussion on social media about the fact that Rotary had rejected the Rotaractors, and they were very upset about this. And as a result of this, some of the delegates changed their opinions, and we did pass by a 2/3 vote so that we could amend the RI Constitution that Rotaract clubs are now members of Rotary. But the Rotaractors are still called Rotaractors. They're not called Rotarians. They don't get the magazine. They can't get grants. They don't vote at conventions. But they still maintain their flexibility, and they are still mandated to be sponsored by clubs and work with clubs. That was probably one of the highest of interest votes that was taken. Other items on the changes: each club shall endeavor to build a well-balanced membership that celebrates diversity. The word diversity was actually put into the RI bylaws. The current requirement to start a new club is to do a classification survey of the area and to find that you have enough people in the classification. Because we are not eliminating classifications, that's no longer a requirement, and a club may be organized in a locality with one or more other clubs without doing any type of classification survey. Another point in district elections, you count the number of members in the preceding July 1 invoice. In the past, we've been able to count going to the most recent RI invoice, which would be the mid-year invoice as opposed to the July 1. I don't think this is as much a problem in the United States as it appears to be in other countries. And because of that, it appears that in some countries they form a new club just to be able to vote, and then they cancel the club and terminate their membership after the vote is taken. So in order to satisfy that requirement, we agreed with all the other clubs that this was the way to go, to keep it as of the preceding July 1. And another requirement: to participate in district voting, clubs shall have paid their district dues. And that's not currently the case. That's not checked. It will be the responsibility of the district governor to oversee that and make sure that that happens. As far as dues, they are increased $1 per year. There was some discussion on that, and when we get a little later into the proposition, I'll show you how it's possible that this may not have to continue, that dues are increased every year, but for the next 3 years, they will be increased $1 per year. Additionally, a district legislation meeting may be convened when a majority of clubs say we want to have a meeting. Right now it's at the behest of the district governor, but a majority of clubs can vote to have a legislative meeting. The governor was given authority to terminate a club with less than 6 members. Now that doesn't mean that we want every club in the world with under 6 members, which there are over 600 of them, I believe, terminated. But it does mean that if there is a club that is just sitting there doing nothing, at the present time, the governor is not allowed to terminate. The governor is only allowed to suggest it to them and have them do it themselves. But at this point, they're allowed to do that. And those of you who've gone to international conventions and have been electors for your club know that, you know, we get buttons and we sit in a section at the RI convention and we're waiting for this big issue to come up that we can vote on. And it's to vote that the president shall be, the president-elect shall become the president, that the governors-elect shall become governors, and it's really already decided. So it was, this particular item is changed so that they will only have meetings if needed. And that will save a considerable amount of money in order to do that, because they have to certify the electors and all of these things. A couple of other things that were changed. The Rotarian magazine will continue, but it could have a different name. And I think there's parts of the world now where it's being referred to as more Rotary issue or Rotary information, and not call the Rotarian. So they don't have to call it the Rotarian. And one item that past presidents and board members were not too happy about, and it'll probably come up at another council, they were eliminated from the council. Right now we have, for example, this year we had 533 voting delegates, and we had about 50 non-voting delegates. And those non-voting delegates who are board members and past presidents of Rotary International will not be part of the council in future years. And the final action that was taken by the board was to change RI's tax status. And that, of course, is applicable only in the United States. Clubs will remain as a 501c4, which is what we have been, but Rotary International will become a 501c3. The change will provide some real benefits to RI, favorable pricing from vendors, favorable tax treatment, of course, and eligibility for corporate sponsorships, which is really a big thing when you're talking about the Rotary International conventions and meetings. So those are the key points. Actually, Rotary International says they estimate $675,000 in savings if this whole package goes through and they become a 501c3. So I want you to make your clubs aware of the changes and get your new documents as soon as they become available. And remember that documents such as the Constitution, bylaws, and the Standard Club Constitution can only be changed by the Council on Legislation. I thank you for being here this morning and for giving me the opportunity to go to the council and to share some of the things that happened with you this morning.
Thank you, Liz, very much. I appreciate that. Can everybody hear me? Shake your head, panelists, if you can. Thank you. That's great. So past District Governor Liz Skinner, those are really great changes. Really happy to see those things moving forward. Those are great directions. Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Chamberlain. I'm the administrative assistant for our district. During that conversation with Liz Skinner, I do want to point out that our next speaker, John, posted some additional information in the chat. If you want to go to those links and open those documents, I think you'll find them really helpful. Thanks, John, for doing that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and introduce John and get him going here. I'm really pleased that John could join us this morning. He's always been very willing to be helpful. I've had a lot of questions myself about my Rotary, the portal, and Rotary in general, and John has always come through with an answer in a remarkably timely manner. He's incredibly helpful and knowledgeable. John graduated from Dominican University up there in River Forest with a Bachelor of Arts in Theater Arts and lives there in Evanston. He's been on the staff with Rotary since 2010. He's a Paul Harris Fellow +2, and he's also a working Rotarian as the current secretary of the Rotary Club of Chicago Lakeview up there, where he has also held a variety of positions, including a past president position. If you're going to the international conference and paying attention to the international conference, even if you're unable to go, you're going to catch John as a host on Convention Minutes, and he does a lot of Rotary's social media channels during the international convention. So I'm going to hand it over to John. I'm going to mute myself, and John is ready to go. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen and share a couple of things here. And we're going to go through a couple of things. I'm really appreciative of being in this position after Liz, because I think it ties in really clearly with what my team does. So right now, I just want to talk a little bit about this kind of support that's available to Rotary clubs and Rotarians around the world. And that includes my team. So I belong to the club and district support team. We weren't too creative when we came up with our name because we support clubs and districts. It's pretty easy. And the ways that we support them, I'll kind of go through in just a couple of seconds here. But to give you a sense of who Rotary is, or Rotary staff, I belong of staff here in Evanston, so just a little bit north of all of you, even though I grew up downstate, so I'm very familiar with your region. I belong to a staff here of over 530 people, and we're all here in this building. There are about 20 or so spread throughout the United States in different roles. Usually those will be people, a position called a major gift officer, so people who are looking for major donors to the Rotary Foundation. Beyond that, we have 7 other offices around the world that also have staff in them. So we have staff in Brazil. We also have staff in Zurich, in India, in Korea, Japan, and Australia. And there's another entity that exists called Rotary International, Great Britain and Ireland. They are all Rotarians. Their governors are governors and so on, but they have their own staff, they have their own president, and they have their own set of constitutional documents. While they can participate in a lot of our conversations, they still are a unique entity. There's more history online. It's somebody else's job to pay attention to that. But basically, the thing to know about them is that if you do look for international partners for projects, or if you're just looking to go over and visit, you're still going to have a very similar experience as a Rotarian there. I belong to a 2-person team that represents districts pretty much throughout the United States. I work with 39 districts along with my colleague here, Jeff. And we're going to be sure to give you our contact information and then some other resources after this webinar is over that will hopefully help keep everybody lined up for this next Rotary year. But a lot of the things that we too help out with are things like navigating My Rotary, which we're going to do in just a little bit as a live demo. But also, we have different events like Governor's Elect Training Seminar, the International Assembly, the President's Elect Training Seminar, and then over the phone and over the internet. We're also policy advisors, and we tend to work alongside your governors and your assistant governors, and then people in positions like Liz's position who just served at the Council on Legislation. So we are a team that gets that manual right away and starts memorizing and referring to the policy changes that have been in there so that we can help explain it out to you as you have questions. And so as Liz brought up in her section of this presentation, right now is a great time to start looking at your Rotary or your club bylaws to make sure that they are updated and that they reflect who you are as a club. But it's also a good time because some changes are coming. And so as those changes are being made, or as your club is starting to review, if there are questions, I don't want to volunteer just Liz to be the one that's responsible for answering those questions, but my team, Jeff and I, are happy to hop on the phone or email back and forth to make sure that the policy that you're trying to write still makes sense when compared to the Rotary bylaws and the Rotary Constitution and the standard club constitution as well. Again, your bylaws are meant to really personalize the Constitution for your club. And there are some areas in the Constitution that say your club can define what this is. And some strong examples of that are, you know, the Constitution will say that your club meets, but then your bylaws will say when you meet. Or your Constitution will say that clubs bill dues, but then your bylaws will tell you how much they are. And so that's the kind of nerdy stuff that we get to go through with all of you so that it's not as difficult. One thing that I am excited for that Liz brought up is the change of language of these constitutional documents, because they are pretty dry right now, and I think they are a little bit unapproachable. So as we're trying to modernize our language and get rid of some very, very old terms, I think it'll just be even easier to have these conversations. And then we're also, as you can see in this last point here, operations consultants. So we can help answer questions that are typical questions about maybe changing your club's name or locality, or if you want to form a satellite club, what that process looks like. If you are making any kind of changes to the club itself, like if you're going to start a sister club or a twin club, any little thing like that, that requires a little bit of paperwork or a form to fill out or just a notification, our team is happy to help out with as well. I mean, do still utilize your assistant governors and your governors and so on, but you know, that we're able to help out with. I think another thing that we're also able to help out with that might be attractive, I don't know, is that there are times where you as a club leader are going to encounter an issue, whether it is sort of a cantankerous person or somebody that is doing something that doesn't quite fit in with your club's documents, your club's environment. Our team can step in and help quote policy back to you because we're not worried about protecting our relationship the same way that you might be. We don't get to see that person every day or every week the same way that you would. And so if you need somebody to step in and provide, you know, quotes from the constitutional documents, you're more than welcome to say, you know what, I'm on your side, but I checked it with Rotary International and here's what they say, so this is what we've got to do. I'm happy to be sort of that big brotherly person or mean guy. Which you can tell by my demeanor is something that I'm really enjoying. But I'm more than happy to sort of help facilitate that conversation as well, based in policy. So now that we've gone through this, I want to take us out to Rotary's website and some of those areas here. So pardon me while I get this page set up. But I think a lot of you might be familiar with Rotary International's website, rotary.org. If you aren't, we're going to quickly go through it here. Actually, I'll refresh it because there's a little video that plays at the beginning. And then I'll talk about My Rotary, which is the Rotarian version of the website. And if you remember, years ago, we had Rotary.org that existed for both Rotarians and non-Rotarians. It existed for our project partners and our program participants. And it was overwhelming to log on and see a site that had every single thing on the document that Rotary provided, all of this information about our programs. And then as a visitor, it could be overwhelming. What we did a few years ago was split these two things in half and sort of say, you know what, we need an outward-facing site to focus on outward-facing people or people from just our friends and family or people who are interested in the organization but aren't familiar with all of our lingo. So we've created Rotary.org to be sort of that capture. And so we've made it very attractive. We've made it very simplified in a way that you can sort of describe who we are and what we do without getting too in the weeds. And then if people are interested in learning more, they're welcome to explore. They're welcome to reach out to Rotary clubs themselves. And if they're inspired to join a club, there's an area here that explains what it's like to join a Rotary club and how to do that, how to show interest. And so we've created a tool called Membership Leads that you all as club officers and actually your district officers would have access to as well. And so a person that's interested would come to Rotary.org and then select the join button. And then that leads to a page.
Hey, John, I'm going to interject for just a second.
Oh, yes.
I just want to make sure people are seeing your screen properly.
Oh, is it showing?
I'm still seeing the PowerPoints.
Oh, sorry. Let me try this out.
Yeah, let's
Well,
double check.
it looked really cool. Let me go back a page really quick and let's share this page. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry
Thanks,
about
John.
that, everybody. This is we're live people, not robots, so this works out. Okay, so just to show this off again, well, for the first time, the site is designed to be pretty attractive to non-Rotarians and actually just the general public, people who are interested in the organization. So as I continue to scroll down, you can see a little bit more about the organization. And then again, we've taken things that are not unique to Rotarians, but well known by Rotarians. So things like the areas of focus, we can all describe them in a very specific way by their official names. But now we've started to say things like promoting peace and fighting disease and providing clean water. That's a little bit more attractive to people who aren't in the know. So we're taking lessons from this design, and we're going to start applying that out to my Rotary, which I'll show us in just a couple of minutes. But I do want to highlight this area here, this join button, that lets non-Rotarians learn about the organization a little bit further, but then also voice their interest. And so this feeds into a tool that we won't really have time to describe today, but it's a membership leads tool that allows people to voice. It goes through this filter, it gets sent to your governor and your district membership and engagement chair. And then from there, they're able to identify where this person might fit in, what region in the district makes sense for them to start exploring. And then it encourages them to go do a club visit. And then from there, they continue along the process. Your club could identify that as a potential member, or you could say, you know what, this person's not a fit. We're gonna send them on to another club in the district. And all that's done through this online tool. And I think it's easier for me to provide you with a walkthrough document than to show you, just because there are a few things to click through. And in my role as a club secretary, my experience is a little bit more limited. I'd rather give you the whole view of it so you can see from start to finish what that process looks like. But if you're out and about and you have people that are interested in joining, or if you're aware of people, send them to rotary.org and then encourage the button. And then here they can voice that they want to join a Rotary Club or Rotaract. Also participate in youth programs or be a Peace Fellow or interested in scholarships. This has existed for a little while, but the process is improved. And this is something that we were able to do because of the dues increases that have happened over the last few years. So even though we're moving to $1 in the following 3 years, for this year moving backwards, we've increased by $4 per year, and that was decided in the 2016 council and legislation. And that lets us be able to build out tools like this in a much more modern and contemporary way, something that makes a little bit more sense than what existed. Before, it had been quite literally just an email that was sent into a team. That team put it into a spreadsheet, and then from there had to make physical determinations of who was a real person, who was a robot, trusted speaker, and so on. And this tool now does some of that work for them. It's worth it, I promise. Some of the other things that we as an organization have been working on using those dues increases are creating a more user-friendly website, and that's My Rotary. So while we're able to go directly to rotary.org and click through, one thing that you might want to take note of or bookmark is the website address myrotary.org. It just bypasses this video screen that I showed you and so on, and gets you to an area that you can log into. I'm going to move my controls just a little bit so I can interact with this a little bit more. Once you've logged in, you'll see information on the top that identifies that you have logged in, and especially the sign out button here. But as you scroll down, you'll also see information about your club on this dashboard. Kind of and so on. That helps identify that you're through. If you have visited My Rotary, you're welcome to mention that in the chat. I'm going to sort of take the approach that this is probably new to everybody, or what if it is new to somebody, or what if you as a club officer or a district officer are responsible for helping a new member get to this website and start utilizing it. So the way that I like to talk about it is sort of the layout itself, which is across the top, we've identified different areas here to hopefully match up with your intention. And so if you were to say, want to start a Rotaract club or start an Interact club or get an additional one, that action that you're taking would hopefully be housed under this Take Action area. And the same thing is true for applying for grants or working on your grants. It's taking some sort of action, and so it's going to be housed here in this Take Action area. An area that I really like to send new Rotarians to is learning and reference. And actually, any Rotarian should visit this section of the website because it offers guides, it offers manuals, and now online learning courses for a number of different roles throughout the organization, not just at the club level, but at the district level, at the regional level as well. And that you can see identified here in, in the learning and reference, and then learn by role or by topic. The Learning Center is here as well. We're trying to develop more interactive online courses, and in fact have just released one called Rotary Basics. And it's intended for new Rotarians, or people who just want to refresh about the organization itself. And it leads you through sort of like an online course that lets you not only read, but interact with the tool itself. So I think that's something to encourage you to go to or to visit yourself and give it a try. And then from time to time, the organization will hold webinars, and those can be found here in the same section. And if you were unable to make it, our recordings of those webinars are available there on demand. But the area that I think that a lot of you in this, I'll say room, this virtual room, will be encountering will probably be here in this manage area. And I know as a club secretary myself and a former president, and then also somebody that's paid to say this, this area I come to quite often because it's designed to help manage certain functions about your club. And this could be where you enter in new Rotarians or make some changes to your club meeting time and location. It's where you can find copies of your invoice as well, but also approach tools like reports, things that are identified as maybe necessities for your role as a club district leader, things that can help you identify where your club might need to improve or make adjustments to continue on a track of being healthy. And then there's tools like Rotary Club Central and the Brand Center, which I can show us in just a second. I'll focus on Club Central, and if there's time, we'll look at the Brand Center. We've got a question or a comment in from Amy saying, it would be awesome if we could have a webinar the length of a normal club presentation that shows the group how to move through this website and teach Rotarians and officers how to join, get their password, and so on. I would love that too, and I think that's something that we've talked about for a little bit. Knowing that there are going to be some improvements to the website within the course of between this year and next Rotary year, I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to create a walkthrough like that, maybe 15 minutes at the most, that does exactly what you're identifying, Amy. So thank you for that. I might do after this to send me an email so that I have like some evidence that this would be a great idea. It helps us to have feedback from people when we go try to argue for these things. So thanks, Amy. You also have sections here that offer you news and media, so pictures. So if you're looking for something to create a poster, or you're looking for something to advertise and you don't happen to have a Rotarian out in the field doing a polio immunization day, in this media center, in the Rotary Images area, those images exist and you can use them. All you have to do is just do a little copyright circle and say Rotary International, or photo credit Rotary International, that type of thing, hidden somewhere very small on your documents. We have some wonderful videos that have been produced by the organization as well, and those are available to you here. We also have a Vimeo page, and I think this actually leads out now to Vimeo, where we're storing these so that you can download them for free and use them in as a club presentation or for World Polio Day if you're holding a local event, that type of thing. It's made available for you. Or if you're tired of posting on Facebook brand new content and you want to share something that's already been created, that's a good place to start as well. But while we're here, I do want to identify or work in Rotary Club Central, because I think this ties in with something that Julie mentioned during her introduction, and that is being goal-focused. And so to approach it, you can get to Rotary Club Central in a number of ways. For me, a natural progression is to go to Manage, and then Rotary Club Central here. And I've already got it pulled up. It's going to show you my club information. Let me refresh this page. There we go. It's going to show my club's information first. And again, any Rotarian throughout the world has access to Rotary Club Central. The have, depending on their role, they will have access to different information or different functions. But at the basis, they're going to be able to see this membership trends or this trends page, their dashboard when they've logged on. And there's information here that we're basically aggregating information that you've provided us and then providing it to you in this pretty chart, that type of thing. So you can see the membership trends for the last 5 years, the gender trends as they've been reported, age trends, and so on. I'll talk a little bit about this, but first I want to talk about the layout. So this page is divided into 2 main sections, the navigation area here on the left, and then sort of the main screen here. And so what you do on the left-hand side will drive what's happening in this main section. So right now on the trends page, we use this quite a bit in my club. Again, because I get to test a lot of these presentations and ideas out them. It's sort of their curse. And in this area here, I like to really point out the age trends, because I think this is possibly true for every club, at least in the United States. For my club, we meet weekly. We have the same maybe 12 people show up every week, and then we have maybe 6 or 8 more people that show up intermittently. So in my mind, as I look around the room, I can say, oh, we're pretty diverse. We've got people in multiple age groups here. We have people of multiple ethnicities and backgrounds here in our club. This is great. We're doing really well. But when I look at the data here in Club Central, as reported to the organization, we can see, okay, we actually have a lot of 20s and 30-year-olds, but we don't have a lot of people in their 60s and 70s. And that actually, we do have a few people in their 70s, so I should say 50s through 60s. And that's something that really we can focus on as a club now. You know, it's one thing to look around the room and say, yes, we're diverse, black and white here, or actually in multiple colors here. It's actually pretty eye-opening. And so for next year, our club is focused on looking at people near retirement or in retirement who could then join us and not only fill out this sort of missing section, but also offer opportunities for us to find experienced people who have had jobs for years and years and have something to offer to the club as well. There's sort of varying mentorship opportunities that now exist for us. David asks, when we add the genders together, we get 37. The trend on this screen shows 35. Is that because we had 35 at the start of the year? The answer right there is yes. And also there's a small glitch happening with the gender tracker. So it's a combination of the two, but it's being worked out this coming week actually. So you won't be notified that there's a change, but there is a change that's gonna fix that little thing. Thanks for pointing that out, David. Now, looking at the left-hand side of the screen are things like the Goal Center, service and activities, resources and reports. Again, your function in these areas is going to vary based on your role with your club or with the organization. I'm going to take us into the Goal Center and show us what that looks like, and then I'm going to take us into service and activities as well. And again, if I'm running over on time, break in and stop me because I geek out about this part too. So in looking at the Goal Center, you can see it sort of adjusted itself here. It's pretty quick. It may look a little delayed just because we're on Zoom, and I know that technology there kind of slows things down just a bit, but I promise we're working on the speed of all of the parts of the website, and this is one of them that we're testing speed out with. And so it's broken up into varying categories. An important thing of officer or an officer-elect. If you haven't explored this tool before and you're being asked to go in and fill in your goals for your year, pay attention to this section here at the very top that allows you to toggle back and forth between Rotary years. Because we're working in the 2018-19 year and the goals that are being achieved are being tracked this year, the tool is going to default to the current Rotary year. So as an incoming officer, it's important to select through to the next club year. And that does adjust things just a little bit here. Now, a good telltale that you are properly recorded as a club officer is that you would see this edit button here for the year that you're an officer. If this edit button is missing, That helps us identify that you weren't recorded as the club officer or the incoming officer. And that's a very easy fix. You could just send an email, call me up, or work with your club secretary to get you identified, but that will make this button appear for you. And the way that the tool is built, and I'm excited to see this because it means that my club president-elect has come through and started entering in her goals. This area would be blank if you didn't have anything set. And your responsibility is to come in as a group to identify the goals that are important in each of these categories: membership and engagement, the Rotary Foundation, service projects, young leaders, which would be things like Interact and RILA, public image, Rotary citation, and then there's an all button if you'd like to see everything listed out as one. In the past, the version that we first created of Club Central was mimicking a paper document that used to exist. So if anybody's in the room that has been a past president, say maybe 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, there was a document called the Planning Guide for Effective Rotary Clubs. And it was an 8-page document, and it captured about 120 goals that the club would have or could have. The club would fill out that document. Generally, the president-elect would fill out that document, submit it to their assistant governor, who then would review it, submit it to their district governor, who would then review it, who would then submit a copy to Rotary, and then submit the copy right back to the club and say, okay, here's what your plan is for the year. That process took months to do, if people were doing it at all. In my time here, I can't remember receiving a lot of them because I think it stopped somewhere along the chain. And so we created Rotary Club Central to alleviate that. And then to also remind people that it's multiple people's responsibilities to not only set goals, but then work toward achieving them. And that's how Club Central came about. So in your club, there are actually 6 positions that have the capability to come in and help edit and then maintain these goals. And that would be you as a president, you as a secretary. If there are any treasurers in the room, they have that same capability, foundation chair and membership chair. And then if your club has somebody identified as an executive secretary or director, that position as well, as long as they've been reported to us in those roles. So again, it's president, secretary, treasurer, membership chair, foundation chair, and then executive secretary or director. And so our hope is that it would then allow the president to delegate out different responsibilities or different goals to different people so that it's not one person coming in being responsible for 75 things. To identify the goals that you want, you would click this edit button. And you can kind of see here that my club president-elect has already come in and started selecting goals. But you can see here for sponsorship is not active. It's gray here in this middle. And the goal has not been set, identified by this red section here. If I wanted to identify this as something that our club was working toward, I would come in and first activate the goal by selecting it, and then going through and entering in a goal. Since my club president-elect has already started working on this, I'm not going to save this activity, but it's important to come up every now and again and hit the save button so that way you don't lose the work that you're doing. Now, there are about 75 goals in this tool. The very nice thing about it, using this sort of a la carte feature or the selection tool, is that you don't have to set all of them. The other important thing to know is that as you set goals, we would love if you meet them, but you don't have to. I mean, it's great to work toward it, but we're not coming through as an organization, and we're not encouraging your governors or assistant governors to come through these achievements and say, oh, you know, the Rotary Club of Chicago's Lakeview is not performing or meeting their goals. They're getting close, but they're not meeting them. Shut them down. Not at all. That's not our intention at all. The intention is to identify areas that might need improvement or strengthening. And with that, what resources can we provide as an organization or recommend as an organization to get closer to achieving those goals? So I'm going to cancel rather than save, just because I don't want her to come in tomorrow and have a little freak out. But you would continue through these goals the same manner. Now, there's some that you type in responses. There are some that are sliders, and I'll show that here in the foundation giving area. I'll hit edit here. So there are things that are pretty standard, like the annual fund contributions, Polio Plus as well. These are actually things that you would enter in the goal as a number, but let's go to maybe public image here. And you can see that there are sliders available here. Things, you can come in and tell us that you've done it. And that's important to point out. There are some responsibilities that we have as an organization to report back to you, and that would be things like your foundation giving totals, that would be things like your membership totals, stuff that we know, but there are things in this tool that we can't identify for you, and that would be things like whether or not you have created a strategic plan, or whether or not you've met your goal for having an online presence. Back out into the members and engagement area, we can't tell you how many people you sent to your district conference. And so our hope is that you would come back into this tool throughout the year and then start filling these blanks as they're happening. We've designed this tool to be great on a computer, but it's also great on a phone. And so if you're out and about and you are sitting at your district conference and you can look around the room and say, okay, we brought 10 people, great, go ahead and enter that in. We've made it very, very simple, more responsive on a phone, in my opinion. If you don't have that capability with you, if your phone, I know some people are starting to go screen free now and use flip phones again, that's okay. Don't try to do this on your flip phone or your clamshell phones. Instead, come back home and try to do this on your computer. Now I bring up phones again because in the service and activities area, actually let me cancel this. In service and activities area found here on the left-hand navigation, this is where you're going to identify the service project that your club will do or is doing. Your club will do or are doing, is doing. I don't know, I was a theater major, not an English major, so sorry about that part. To anybody who likes words. But in this section of the tool, you can identify the projects that your club will do throughout the year. And so that's accomplished by either clicking add a new service project, if it's a brand new thing that your club is adding to the tool, or if it's something that you have done before, you could come to this repeat past project and it pulls in a lot of the same descriptions and information into that project so that you only have to really focus on the totals for the year. So I'm going to open up a new project and show what that looks like, but I'll identify what could be filled in by repeating a past project. So you would identify the club's the project title, a little summary about it so you can help identify what was going on in the project itself. So say we worked at the Night Ministry, which is another organization that my club works with here. We packed 500 meals or something like that. You can get really creative in this area here, but then as you come through the tool, you identify the project timeline. Did it take place over a day? Did it take place over 5 days? And fill in that information here. You can set it for something that's occurring right now, or you can set it for something that's happening in the future. Once it's done, however, you should come back in and then mark the project complete by clicking that slider there. And this is what drives the totals up in our project tracker. It's what feeds the trends section on the front page of the dashboard where it talks about projects. And the metrics themselves should be filled in as well. And this is, again, up to your club to decide how to utilize. I operate more comfortably by projecting what we think we're going to do and then coming back in later and putting in the achievement. So for this section, we could identify that we're probably going to have 20 project participants. And then the achievement, it would be great if we had 20, but maybe 35 showed up to help out with this meal packing. Number of hours is has been confusing in the past, and I think the best way to describe it is that if we have 20 people for 1 hour, the total that I'm going to put in here is 20 hours rather than 1. It's 20 people giving you 20 hours total. If those 35 people showed up and we were able to move a little quicker, great, you can make that adjustment, but maybe they did give you a full hour of their time, that would be 35 hours of service. So just be aware of that as you come through to the tool. Cash contributions and in-kind donations are something you can identify here as well. And then something that I would encourage people to use is this additional project details area. And this is where you can identify if it was a community project, if it had an international component to it. You can identify if one of the areas of focus was in mind while you were doing this. And as you make these selections, there's no limitation to the number of selections in this category or in the project partners category. You can identify which area of focus it handled. This information helps Rotary itself identify what kind of projects are happening out in the field. And I say this a little selfishly. We as an organization are very well aware of how much money has been put into polio eradication by this organization, by you as volunteers. We know how many hours people have gone out and been on immunization trips. We know how many resources are available and so on. And because of that, we're able to go to an organization like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and say, look, we're doing this work. Can you partner with us? But what we don't have data on are the number of clubs that are out there doing literacy projects or doing projects that are related to maternal and child health in this instance, or clean water. And that has been sort of not a roadblock, but more of a speed bump for us. It's hard for us to go to other organizations that are out there that are focusing on those types of projects. Bill and Melinda Gates again to say, look, we're also doing all of this work because we don't have that data collected. And so again, in a selfish way, we would hope that you would come into this tool and identify that information for us so that we can make a stronger case when we go after these big partnership opportunities. But then I want to translate that down to the local level. Like, how does this help your club or even your district? More and more, we're seeing organizations or companies and areas become more philanthropic. They want to get out in the community and provide maybe grant money or provide a small amount of money toward a project to help out and say that they're doing good in their community too. And we would imagine that they get a lot of grant proposals or requests for that money. And the more requests that come in and have people sharing their stories, the better. But on top of sharing your heartfelt story and how you as an organization are helping your community, it might be helpful to come into this tool and identify how projects are doing and have some hard data to present along with your stories. They're not only getting the heartfelt, they're getting the hard data. And maybe that will give you an advantage over the number of other people that are also presenting to them. And maybe that would strengthen some of the projects that you have available. But that's a hope. I don't know if people are actually doing this out in the field. It would be wonderful if they did and share that feedback with me or with us as an organization. And you could do that here with this little contact area. But our hope is that we're able to strengthen the work that we're doing across all different levels of the organization. So, with that being said, this tool is only as useful or only as strong as it is if you go in as a club and identify this data for us and for yourselves. Very quickly, I do want to cancel this because, again, I don't want to scare my president-elect. With that, I'm going to go back a year and you can see that our club has been utilizing this tool. We've in throughout the year. And then as we mark things complete or the project complete, they show up in this total area here. Now there are different resources available, different guides and downloads. There's a resource in here that shows you how to set goals in Rotary Club Central. So if you've forgotten any of the steps that I've shown you here, it's available as a PDF to download and walk through. It's broken up by different categories as well. So things that are related to membership. Maybe you do want to do a membership drive or conduct a health check in the club. Service and resources for foundation giving. How do you encourage people to give to the Polio Plus Fund or the annual fund? Well, a lot of that's found here, as well as reports. So I showed us out on my Rotary some areas about reports themselves, but you can actually approach a lot of those from within this tool so that you don't have to hop back out and hop back into the tool. They're available here, and again, broken up by. So it's kind of what I wanted to identify here in this tool. If there's time for it, Jane, if there are any questions that people have, I'm happy to go through those or move on, if there's still time, to another area of the tool. Are there more things coming through?
You have a few more minutes and questions
Okay.
will be welcome.
Okay. How about if people do have some questions, we can go ahead and go through those. And then, oh, I do see some coming through. And then if there's still some time, we can go into another part of this website, the tool here. All right.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Hey, this information that is put in here, this is information needed for the president citation. Is that correct?
That's a great question. And actually, let me go back out to the Goal Center here. But yes, there's an area here for the Rotary citation. And what I should say about it is that you're not going to see on the printed paper or the PDF that you received about the citation in this tab. What this is doing is capturing, let me take that back. There are some goals that will appear on the citation that are actually goals that we have as an organization every year. And because they are every year goals, they'll appear in different sections of Club Central. So things like increasing membership, that's always a goal. So it's always going to be here. But there are certain goals in the citation that change from year to year, or the president can come in and say, look, I'd like to focus on this, this, and this. I think a strong example is last year, there was a goal for planting trees throughout the world. Because that wasn't a goal every single year, we didn't really have a place to house it in Club Central here. So instead what we've done is created this sort of citation tab to capture those sort of unique things that would only happen for one calendar year or one Rotary year. And so yes, you could come into this tool and then work through the goals here. Rita has a question saying, will attending webinars like this be included, or would that satisfy the training goals? I think so. I think you're giving up your Saturday to attend this type of thing. Go ahead and put it in as a goal, and then go ahead and mark it as one of your achievements, in my opinion, unless your governor-elect says no. But I doubt that would be the case. And again, since it's self-reported, we would encourage you to use the 4-way test here. Is it true that you've come and done this, or one of your members has come to do that as well? I think what we're seeing more and more, especially in the US, and especially the region that I cover, because districts can be so geographically big, like for instance, all of Montana is a district on its own. They are starting to use online tools like Zoom or GoToMeeting more and more. And so, yes, if they're conducting training through the tool, I would say let's include that. There is another goal here. Rita has a question still related to this webinar. Would people, I believe it's for this webinar, would they receive some sort of a list for attendance so that they would record who's attended this version of the webinar properly with their secretaries? That part I think Jane can answer later on. Connie asks, would we add fundraisers here, or is there a different place to put them? That's a great question. Let me go back out to the service and activities area. And by here, I do mean Rotary Club Central, which is an online tool of my Rotary. But yes, as you go in to add a project, again, I'm on service and activities. I'm going to add a new project. I would fill out all this top area here. But at the very bottom in this category, I would select that it is a fundraiser here, and that it just helps us tag it as a fundraiser for the future. So yes, that's a great thing. Oh, I see Jane responded to that question too. Great. There is, oh, you've got it already there. The Q&A section had that same question. So great. These are great questions. Are there any other questions about Club Central? Is there time to move on to talk a little bit about the Brand Center?
Plenty of time to talk a little bit about the Brand Center. You have about 10 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay. That means I don't have to speed, so that's great. So back out on my Rotary. Oh, Beverly asks, if we get stuck in something, can we call you? Absolutely. We'll make sure that you have our contact information after this webinar concludes. And actually, I'm just going to provide it for your whole district to have access to. But yeah, Jeff and I are both very well versed in not only working in Club Central, but also my Rotary itself. So if you get a snag somewhere, we're happy to hop on the phone. If it's easier to come back like this, or maybe approach multiple people, that's something that we can arrange also, doing a brief webinar to go through, or maybe a 10-minute or 30-minute meeting, just so that people are very comfortable using the sites. So great suggestion, Beverly. All right, going back out to my Rotary here, I'll show us how we get to this, but in the Manage area is the Brand Center. And by clicking on Brand Center here, it opens up the tool itself. So I'm going to switch over to the new tab here because I've already got it open. But this section of the website is designed so that you can come in and get things like logos, different materials, learn about the guidelines themselves for utilizing all of these logos. My recommendation is to identify maybe your PR chair if you have one in your club, or committee if you have a committee. Have them come through and download the guidelines and start reading through them, get a sense of what we're trying to do with this brand. You'll hear people say the new logo, they'll use phrases like that, our new brand. This project, or I guess this sort of refresh, actually is about 7 years old. So when we talk about the new logo, we're actually talking about something that happened about 7 years ago. So my goal for all of you is just to start to say our logo, the Rotary brand itself, rather than the new brand. Let's let that quiet itself down a little bit. But coming through here, there are tools that you can come into to create your own things. So if I was to click on Rotary logos, it would take me to the section where I can go to download some of the materials that could be used on our flyers or on our backdrops, or any type of thing that you're creating to help identify Rotary in your community. Again, we hope that you read through those guidelines. If you have questions about the proper use of these marks, that's something that Jeff and I can also walk through. Or if you have a proposed design that you want to look at, that's something that we can look through as well with you before you spend the money and put it to print. But also in this logos area, there's a template area that allows you to create your club's logo. So when we released these items years ago, the company that we utilized, called Siegel and Gale, made some recommendations about font choices and color choices and so on. And the font that was selected actually cost a lot of money for a club to download and start utilizing. And so based on feedback that we received from people, we've created this tool that allows you to come in, hit the create button, and then start working in the tool itself to create your own logo. And so I could come in and say Club of Chicago Lakeview and create it in real time. Now this allows you to create the standard logo where the alignment is below. You also have language above the logo, above and below, because we want your community to know who you are. So if you say out loud that there's a Springfield Rotary Club, this logo can help affirm what you've been saying out loud, rather than using the traditional naming convention, which would have been the Rotary Club of Springfield, Illinois, USA. It's a mouthful when you're having a brief conversation with somebody. So that's available here. If you're utilizing something, or if you're creating a document that would ask that this be smaller than 2 inches in size, or maybe you're working on a website or something that you're going to produce online for Facebook, the logo here for simplified gets this a little bit more simple looking, because as it shrinks down in size, you would lose the values of Rotary and International within the wheel of themselves. They get a little foggy looking, and so we've created this version as well for using online. And a lot of that's described out in those guidelines. I'm going to leave this part of the tool and show you something else that I think is really cool. And then I think Larry had a question that we can get to too. Really briefly about the Learning Center. In this area, in this materials area, is a create your own section that does feature the logo template, but it also features the new People of Action campaign. So things that you might be seeing around town that says together we inspire, or together we fight hunger, or end polio. Those are available here. The same thing for the club brochure. And each section of this club brochure allows you to switch out the photos and put information about your club so that it makes sense in your community. So we have some stock photos there, but you're welcome to change them out. The technology is very similar to what you're going to experience in these People of Action campaign items, but I'll show you the brochure really quickly so that you get a feel for it. And again, this gives you a brief description about what you're going to work on. If I hit create, the tool itself will pull up. And then each of these areas that I'm clicking on allow you to make changes. And again, it happens right in front of your face. So I could come here to the side photo and say, maybe this doesn't represent my club. Maybe there's another photo that could. You can use a stock photo that your club has maybe created. I'm gonna go here. And then you can see that there are preset photos and then the opportunity here to customize it. I'm gonna use one of the preset photos and see what's available here. I do realize that this is gonna look very small on the screen, but that's something that we're trying to approach as well. And I'm gonna utilize this photo because it looks a little bit more like my club, because it also has me in it when I was about 20 pounds skinnier. So that's me. But you could fill in this information here, hit this little button here at the back to fill out the information on the back side, and then send this file off to be printed. You can use the local printer if you have a print shop in town. That's also great. It works, in my opinion, better with a professional printer than it does on a home computer, mainly because of the amount of ink that you're utilizing. And then also it does have things like crop marks and things that a printing press would understand. But this is something that I would recommend coming into play with either as the year's beginning, or if your club is identifying maybe a significant celebration or significant project, to come in and start playing around with this tool to see how you can utilize it. Now, there are a couple of questions here. Sue just said that she spent some time this week creating her club and that it's an awesome tool. So that's absolutely wonderful. Thanks for doing that, Sue. Maybe it's something that you could then identify or share with your fellow club members throughout the district to show how effective that can be if you have maybe some spare copies available. Larry asked if we could go take a look at the Learning Center, and I think with the last few minutes that I've got, I'd like to do that really quickly. So I'm going to come back out to my Rotary tab that I've got open. I'm going to go to Learning and Reference, and then I'm going to come over to the Learning Center. It's been refreshed this year. It's something that we did, again, use that dues increase to help create a space that is a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit more interactive. And so this is something that I'm very proud of my colleagues for having created. If anybody has taken any other online courses through universities or through organizations that you're interested in, we've tried to mimic that just a little bit. We're also building out some features that districts might find useful. Like districts will eventually be able to create their own learning track. So they could create a folder in here and say that club officers can come and take this specific set of courses. At the end of it, you get a little certificate that you can either print out or keep on your computer somewhere. And there is sort of like a welcome course that you can sign up for and then learn how to use this tool. One of the ones that I mentioned, though, was the Rotary Basics one. And actually, these are arranged by language. Because of my role in the organization, I get to see a lot of the languages all up front. But there are things here that are new that we're continuing to roll out, like building diverse clubs, administration type things, peace fellowships as well. And to register for these, you simply find the course that you're looking for, or you can search by topic, like say I was interested in basics. A lot of these things will come up. You can see that there's some that are designed as a file download. This will download a document to your computer, but then there's interactive learning, and that will take you through these modules. Since I've already registered for the course, I'd rather show you this really quick, what this part looks like. So say I'm interested in learning about peace fellowships. I would click on the course and then enroll myself in the program. The wonderful thing about this tool, and then you can see like view my courses or let's begin. The wonderful thing about using this tool now is that it's at your own pace. There's no timer that you're gonna have to beat to finish the course. You could be in your pajamas, nobody's gonna see you. There's no webcam interactions on these courses. You know, if you have a couple of minutes every day, or if you set aside maybe half hour every weekend to come in and enrich your Rotary experience with these tools, I think it's worth it. Reviews are going, and I think an important thing to note about that is that if you go through some of these courses and you like them, we'd love to hear that. But there's also an opportunity at the end to tell us that you didn't like it and then identify where we can improve. And so there's a course evaluation on each one of these where you could say, you know what, I didn't get a lot out of the content, or I didn't get a lot out of the interactive parts of this. We would love to have that feedback so that we can respond. Another benefit to that is that in the past, when we create our printed materials, our printed training materials, they used to live on a 3-year cycle. And so after the 3rd year, they would be refreshed and presented out to you. And that's a very, very long time to refresh a document and get it out to the masses. If, say, language changes, or if we needed to add in some more information about diversity and inclusion or harassment or anything like that, training courses that we can offer, if we put them onto this learning instantaneously, we can get something up here within months rather than 3 years from now, or say we'll address that in the future. So to me, as a nerd myself, I think this is really, really exciting that we can utilize technology this way, that we can be responsive and even aim to be proactive rather than always reactive when it comes to these materials. So thanks, Larry, for asking for that opportunity to share this information with you. I think we're getting close to time. And yes, yeah, he's saying this is very useful for pets. I agree. There's a lot that you could do as a district leader or an assistant governor to prepare your presidents-elect before pets, so that when you get to that training, presidents-elect training seminar, when you get to that training, you can hit the ground running rather than trying to get everybody caught up to it. I think I'm at time. I will hang around though in case there are questions later on throughout the webinar. And, will chime in or raise my hand if I can to sort of add some Rotary staff perspective if needed.
That's great.
But thanks for letting me have this opportunity.
Thank you, John. That was excellent. We really appreciate your expertise. A lot of clubs spend too much time reinventing the wheel year after year. And I think getting a better understanding of the new tools that Rotary is putting out on their website and my Rotary and Club Central is just invaluable. It will save club administrators and leaders a whole lot of time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we transition into your part of it, I do want to say, we've also been working with our other vendors that are out there. So I believe your district uses DACDB, other districts, yes, things like Club Runner. Those tools are now also being integrated into our databasing. So as you make membership changes, as long as they're linked together, one-time click by probably a predecessor of yours, as long as they're linked, changes to your meeting information, officer roles, those things will feed into our database and vice versa.
That's correct. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the coming few minutes. So that's you're exactly right on that. Appreciate too that you're going to hang around for a little while online. And if folks do have questions, use that Q&A and we'll have John monitor that for a little bit so that you can, pick his brain. We're really in a state of change, I think, at Rotary. And what's interesting to me being a Rotarian for more than a decade is that I have to learn new things now. And so it isn't a repeat to go back and do some training. I mean, we all need it. Things have changed and that's good. So next up is our 2019-2020 Assistant Governor Coordinator, Deb West. And want to thank her for joining us this morning too. She's going to share a bit about how assistant governors play their part in next year's success. So we're going to have some short presentations and these go by position in the district. And we hope that by everyone seeing them, that they understand everyone's role and how they can work together as a team and support each other. So Deb, I am going to mute myself and hand it over to you. And if you'd like to unmute yourself, and I will get your slide up. And it's all yours. If you want to share a little bit about your Rotary biography too, that would be great.
Okay, good morning. Have we made the transition? Okay. Jane, if you could just nod your head and tell me that we've made the transition. Or not. Okay, perfect. I'm Deb West, and good morning. I'm pleased to be stepping into the role of Assistant Governor Coordinator for 2019-2020. I'm currently a member of the Bloomington Club, and I've been involved in Rotary leadership both here in Illinois and in Texas. And my brief session this morning will just be a rundown of the top 10 expectations of assistant governors. And we have members of my club making faces at me in the doorway, so shame on them. At any rate, I'm hoping that everyone who's participating today, even if you're not an assistant governor, will understand how your assistant governor can be of help to you as you lead your own clubs. So with that, we'll just take a look at that top 10. And number 10 is, you heard Julie talk this morning about the information sheet that she's asking each of the presidents-elect to turn in. Your assistant governors will have a copy of that if you, as a president-elect, don't have a copy. And we're asking our assistant governors to work with those presidents-elect and get that turned in. This is, again, going to help District Governor-elect Julie as she plans her visit to the clubs. The ninth thing I would say to our assistant governors is encourage and bring your club officers to district events and trainings. I know a lot of you gathered leaders in various places for this morning's webinar, and I'd love to see that continue. It's always more fun if we do this together. We're all in this together, and it's really good when we can cross-pollinate that knowledge. Number 8 would be to have, as an assistant governor, have some programs in your hip pocket. Be available to your clubs. A speaker could cancel. They could have a hole in their schedule. You saw John talk about the Brand Center, and one of the tabs in that Brand Center are some videos which you can use. There are also some really nice short videos in the Foundation tab of My Rotary. So really look at making those available. Have a program in your area of expertise that you might be able to talk about, or just go and if you don't have a program prepared or something that you can pull up, go to that club, visit with them, and find out what their questions are and how you can be of help to them. As we talked this morning, our number 7, and probably should be higher in the list according to John, would be encouraging your clubs to enter their goals and their progress into the Rotary Club Central area of the Rotary International Organization's website. The only way we're going to be able to help track your progress and to help people in the future see what was done in the past is to have that information there, not only entering the goals, but let us know how you did on those goals so that new goals can be built based on what was done in the past. Help your clubs keep DAC-DB up to date. You heard John talk about that. In our district, most clubs have integrated their DAC-DB, which is the district and club database, have integrated that with the RI website so that the information you enter also goes into the Rotary International website. That really does help everyone communicate, and that's really an important thing. And Jane, if you could change the slide so that we can get to the top 5, or not. There we go. As an assistant governor, it's really important that you participate in your club projects and events, and club members and leaders, don't forget to invite your assistant governor and your district governor to events and projects, service projects that you have, celebrations that go on. Everyone enjoys being part of that, and we would love to be part of the things that you're doing in your clubs. Number 4, in the Rotary Club Central area, there's a place where, as an assistant governor, you can make notes about what's going on in the clubs that you're working with, so that when District Governor-elect Julie goes out to make her visits next Rotary year, she has a little leg up on knowing what's going on in that club, so she can speak directly to that and be a resource. Arrange for and be part of the district governor's visit. When Julie comes to visit the clubs that you're working with, please be sure that that club is ready for the district governor's visit. Understands the district governor will be the program for that visit if it's a regular club visit. And also be prepared to introduce the district governor as part of that program. If the district governor is coming for an activity or a service project rather than a traditional meeting, make sure that the arrangements are made so that everyone knows where to be and knows what will happen during that time. Number two, we obviously ask you to know and visit your clubs. The only way you're going to know what's going on in the clubs that you are working with is to visit them, be part of what's going on in those clubs. And first and foremost, we ask you as an assistant governor to be a resource for your clubs. Be that person that whether you can answer their question or not, you can pass on information. You can also suggest someone that they could speak to, like Liz, like John, like Jane, who can answer their questions and help with the kinds of things that they're working on in their clubs. That was a really quick top 10. I don't have a lot more to say other than I'm available to help you as an assistant governor. If for some reason a club leader has a question about who their assistant governor might be, in case that visit hasn't happened recently, just let me know. Also, please know that the assistant governor is there for you. The assistant governor, like the district governor, is there to help you make sure that your club has a successful year and is serving the community and the world. So with that, I'll turn it over in case there are any questions. And I'm always available to answer questions offline later on. So Jane, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you, Deb, very much. You can utilize the Q&A if you would like to do so to ask Deb some questions about assistant governors. And I just want to ask Deb real quick, there are some areas may not have the same district governor that they've had in 2018, 2019. There are a few new district governors, correct?
Yes, there will be some new assistant governors coming through, and we will be getting that information out to the clubs. Hopefully, we'll get that new assistant governor to the club to meet the club membership before the start of the new Rotary year.
That would be great. And just remember that installation gala is going to be on June 30th, and that's another great place to meet your assistant governor because you'll all get installed at the same time. Awesome. So thank you very much, Deb. I'm going to go ahead and mute Deb, and we are going to bring up next Susie Tongate, who's the past president of the Rotary Club of Gibson City. You may know the notorious Gibson City Club because they were awarded the District Governor Small Club of the Year award during Susie's presidential year. They are hot. Gibson City is a great club. And that was a very awesome honor for the club, and it was really well deserved. So, Susie, you are up, and I am going to throw up your slide. I'm not going to throw it up. I'm going to share your slide.
Okay, good morning from Gibson City. As we said, I've lived in Gibson City all my life. I have two daughters who have moved out, and I have one in San Diego and one in Chicago, but I love to visit, but I love to come home and be in my small community. Besides Rotary, I'm also an alderman here in town. So I am Rotary proud and small town proud. So with that, I'll get into a little bit about being a president. My biggest advice is don't just lead your club, be a leader of the club. Anyone can stand there and go through an agenda, but I think you have to take it to heart for the rest of your club to follow. So with that, I'm going to go through my 10 suggestions. So number one is it's your time to shine. Every president's going to have their way of doing things, and some will have more time and willingness to give. And change is good as long as your club continues to grow and change for the better. The thing you want to avoid is for your club to become stagnant and not have their goals set or have a president that isn't leading. So to do that, I suggest you drink the Kool-Aid, read the district newsletters, learn what the other clubs are doing, and be sure to share everything your club is doing. If possible, attend RLI to learn about Rotary in general and attend the district meeting, but for sure, attend a year or two of PETS before you do become the president. meeting Rotarians from other clubs and learning about what they do and what we do as an organization can help get you excited about Rotary. And let your enthusiasm show and help it drive your club to do new and different things. So put your plan in place. Take time to meet with your club officers before your year kicks off. Don't just go into the first meeting. Get set up so that you're prepared. Being prepared will keep you from just going through the motions of having meetings every week. If your club has long-term goals, be prepared to keep moving forward with those. If not, I suggest you set some. In a club where, as Rotary is, with annually changing presidents, if you don't have long-term goals, then you just continue to meet week after week without moving forward. And so that's why I think it's really important that as a club, you know where you want to be, not during this year that you're the president, but in the next couple years. As John spoke earlier, we have, Rotary has the 6 causes that we support. If you plan ahead with your club calendar for the whole year, you can look ahead and say, okay, let's fit in meetings and speakers that address those different causes that we have and make your meetings relevant and not just standing there going over, just data information or, or what your club is doing, put some meat into some of those meetings. And of course, I think it's important to have at least one meeting a year, kind of like the servant meetings that you have at church. You have to have one that touches on the foundation, so that people remember how important it is to give and why we give and be a part of the foundation of Rotary. So get your house in order. As I said, our club has found that by putting together a club calendar, and we also set a club budget. We do that ahead of time as well. Our foundation directors, they meet ahead of time, and it doesn't change much from year to year, but they put a budget in order, and we use that kind of as a template for our club throughout the year, because once you have that, then you're like, what you're planning to do throughout the year. There's room for fudging and for moving and adding new things, but this gives us a template for how we want our year to go. And we also have a guideline that club officers vote on any donations that our club will make, anything over, over a few $100s, so that they make the recommendation and we take that to the club, and then the club does vote on it. But this kind of helps us eliminate from making spontaneous donations or knee-jerk reactions if we have a visitor there. We want to be sure that we're using our money wisely, and we want to be prepared to spend that money and support those different organizations. But sometimes you want to be sure and think those through and make sure everyone's in agreement. Let's see, Rotary does ask that you set the goals in the different categories, as John was speaking about as well. We get our club officers together before each year starts and do that. And once you've done that, it's really easy to do it the following years, because you're going to be able to tell where areas you're going to be able to grow and which ones are harder for your club. Gibson City is a very small community. We have several organizations, and it's some of the same people doing the same things. And the pool that we have to pick from doesn't allow us to grow our membership a whole lot. But we did win the membership award last year. So you have to plan for those and set those goals to see those through. And once you've set them, refer to them throughout the year. Do a check-in every couple months and say, this is what our goal is, and we're falling behind. What can we do, and who has some ideas to help us meet those goals? Be flexible. Clubs are a living thing. They grow and they ebb and flow with the makeup of the members that you have at any time. So you may need to make adjustments to your club for the members that you currently have in your club. So, changing or varying the meeting times and places and what foods you're offering. you may need to do that every year or so based on the current members that are attending. And so in our club, we have 2 meetings a month that are at noon at a library. The third meeting, third week, we set aside for the club officers to meet. And then the 4th meeting of the month is in the evening at a restaurant in town. So that way, you know, we have quite a few teachers and hospital member or employees that aren't able to get away at noon, but they can join us for that monthly meeting. And then we have very detailed minutes that go out that keep our members informed on what's going on. You just do want to be sure you keep the district notified of those changes of meetings so that if an assistant governor is coming, they know where to find you. There's no I in club, so the president can't do it all. We try to assign all of our members to different committees and make sure that it's a committee that they're comfortable in being a part of and that it fits their personality, because you want them to be active in that as well. So one thing is to make sure there's a written explanation of what each committee does in your club so that they know what they're expected. And if there's activities that they need to plan or fundraisers, you know, they want to know what their duties are. And we've had to learn that not all of our members can contribute the same amount of time as some of the others can. We have several young members that are teachers that have young kids, but you know, they've taken on just certain duties in our club. You know, we have a calendar that we award winners each week. It was one of our fundraisers, and those members have taken on the task of drawing the winners and making those announcements for us. It's a small job, but it gives them something to do and allows them to participate. Give Rotary the business. It's important that your club gets your information entered into the DAC-DB system. And it's important for Rotary International to have all of the club's organizations records, but it's important that, you know, your club gets your information in there so that you're with what you're doing throughout the year. If you struggle with the system, this is an area that there's experienced people like John and other officers that can help us do that. It wasn't something that I was able to understand when I first got into it. I was trying to look myself up the other night. It's still not easy for me, even after I've been using it for a while. The foundation is every club's foundation. When you join Rotary, I think most people know it's an international organization, but for some, it's still easier to give at a club level and where you see something tangible come out of what you give. But I think it's especially true in a small community like ours where we're used to doing for each other. The Gibson City Club learned that lesson. We did our big North Park project, which was a very big project and would normally qualify for district grants, but based on our low giving, that wasn't something that was available to us. And so through education and having visitors from the foundation of our district, they came and they've helped educate us a little bit. And we, by increasing that in our goals that we set each year, we've increased our giving to where we do now qualify for that. So that's important, you know, that people understand that. Contact those contacts. One of the great part of being, or one of the greatest things about being part of the largest service organization in the world is having so many people available to help you. Reach out to your AG for help with the DAC-DB, or we've had Joe Michalecki come and talk about foundation giving several times. It's taken several times to get people to understand that. And we had Ron Shetler come and talk about the importance of visioning, and because our club wasn't on board with that at first when we first brought that up. And it took a few times for us to decide that was something that we wanted to do. And that was right before my presidency. And I felt like that was one of the long-term goals that really helped us move forward. Eric Ledke has come and spoken about the things that he does in his club and his personal commitment to the Nepal. And he was just in our club last week. He's a great asset, and we have members ready to go climb mountains and save people. So it's great to have some of those people that are available to help us. And the last thing is make history. Record and share everything. Take photos of every activity that you do and every speaker that you have, and focus on Rotarians in action. Gibson City, we have added a position of club historian. And because that's important, because everybody takes pictures on their phones, but they're just digital. And unless there's a way of saving that, you're gonna lose all of that history. You know, if a club member leaves and takes all those pictures that's on their phone, you no longer have those as history for your club. So we have a club historian that stepped forward, and she set up a email that we can just email her with the pictures and information for our club history, and she saves and records those. We're also really pretty active at posting things on Facebook and Instagram, and I do a lot of that, and when I do it, then I just repeat and forward it on to the newspapers and the Rotary district newsletters, so that information does get out there about our club. Using these records and then referring to that budget that we set up is how I was able to make the presentations about what our club did at the end of our year. It's just, you know, keeping track of what you do and recording it, and then making that presentation. Everybody's doing great things, and I think I just took a little more time to fill things out and make a presentation. But mainly, while winning club awards is great, it's more important that you not just lead, but to be a leader of your club during your presidency and drive your club forward and help it grow. So that's the 10 things that I had. I hope that helps give some people some ideas. I don't know how many president-elects we do have watching today. If anybody would like my notes, I'd be glad to forward those on. I've got those kept. So do anybody have any questions?
That's great. Thank you so much, Susie. That's wonderful. And Susie's around too to look at the Q&A in the chat and respond to those as helpful to you. I do like your point about the history, especially. Just as a FYI, our club has donated some of our things to our local Museum of History, or to our Historical Society, actually. And because we weren't sure we could protect it, some of those old documents. So that might be something for some of the older clubs to consider too. So next up is our next presenter is Lynn Landon, and she is with Bloomington Normal Daybreak. I'm gonna unmute her. You know, technical difficulties, right? I'm learning here a little bit. So, oops. I'm trying to get you unmuted over there, Lynn. Lynn serves her small but mighty club as both secretary and treasurer. Lynn also volunteers at the district level in leadership development. She is a wealth of Rotary knowledge, and she will answer questions from anybody just about any time. She is really, really knowledgeable, and I lean on her often, so I appreciate Lynn very much. So she's here to talk a little bit about another unique Rotary leadership role, and I'm going to say, Lynn, we can hear you now. Can you test it?
Hi, Jane.
Oh, good. It worked. Yay. So I'm going to let you have the stage.
Well, welcome, everybody. And thank you, friends, for sticking out this beautiful Saturday morning. We've had some excellent sessions this morning. Really appreciate the information. And as someone mentioned earlier, it's never too late to learn new things about Rotary. I have been in Rotary nearly 30 years myself, and I'm always learning about Rotary. An interesting slogan that I read in the May Rotarian comes from the Rotaract Club of City University of Hong Kong, and they have a club slogan: to serve, to learn, to lead. And I thought that was really good. And we're here today to learn so that we can better lead our clubs. And as Jane mentioned, feel free to contact me anytime to use me as a resource for your secretary and treasurer questions. I am currently the club secretary and treasurer of the Bloomington Normal Daybreak Club. I have also been the secretary and treasurer at the district level over the years also. So any Rotary question, just send it my way at any time. I'm always happy to help. So this morning I have for you my top 10, which Jane has on the screen. For Rotary Treasurer, this also crosses into the secretary role and a little bit of the membership chair role also as point 1. So the takeaway from point 1 is that it is extremely important that the club treasurer coordinates with the club secretary and membership chair for a couple of reasons. I know that Rotary no longer has an attendance requirement. We don't have a mandatory check. Yes, you were here at the Rotary meeting this week. However, as club secretary, I do still keep that attendance every week for the purpose of feeding that information to our membership chair. We are able to utilize that information for people who have been missing for several weeks. We'll text them, we'll send them an email, we will call them and just say, hey, haven't seen you for a few weeks and you are missed. And that often connects people to come back to a meeting, to know that they're important and they are missed at the weekly meeting because their attendance is important and we want them there. Secondly, in coordination with the secretary and membership chair, it also allows for timely onboarding of new members. Oftentimes, Rotary clubs get new members, but it takes them what seems to be forever to onboard them. And if the treasurer, the secretary, and the membership chair all coordinate to get that onboarding process done very quickly, it makes the new member feel really good. It makes them feel that they're important, that things happen quickly, and it also helps integrate them very quickly into the club. Point 2 is treasurer, reconcile the bank account promptly. I feel very adamant about this, that in today's day and age, there is a lot of electronic theft going on. And if you reconcile the bank account monthly, any potential improprieties would be kept forefront so that you can deal with those very quickly, especially if your bank account has a debit card attached to it for making online purchases. This is very important. Point 3, monthly financials. Clubs use different programs. I personally use QuickBooks for the club financial transactions. I find it very easy, very user-friendly, but there are lots of different programs to use. Even if you do your financial statements manually, which is perfectly fine, the point here is to have them reconciled to the bank in a timely manner and to prepare and share those financials with the board members monthly. I don't like it when people show up at a board meeting saying, I was too busy to prepare the financial statement. Yes, we realize that this is a volunteer position. However, it's really important for transparency that the treasurer shows the other board members that they're staying on top of the financial information. one of the ways that I do that is I include a copy of the page of the bank statement that shows the bank balance, as well as the bank reconciliation as part of the monthly financial report going back to the board. Because you can also keep a fine report in QuickBooks, but there could be impropriety by someone taking money out of the bank account. And so by not showing the bank statement that the money is actually in the bank account, that doesn't, the two coordinate, because then you can see that the money is actually accounted for, which may or may not be the case in QuickBooks. We all like to think that Rotarians follow the four-way test and are above board and honest with their finances, but over the course of the Rotary years, that has not always been the case. So for transparency to the board members and to the general membership, having a copy of the bank statement balance in with the monthly financials and preparing that information on a monthly basis and sharing it with the board members and actually sharing it with any club member who requests the financial information is very important. What I do leading into point number 4 is I prepare a financial report and I actually send it out ahead of time before the board meeting, because there is a lot of information in it. And for the sake of taking too much time at a board meeting, I like to send that out ahead of time so that people can prepare their questions and perhaps email me ahead of time or bring their questions to the board meetings. And so I put in the body of the email some highlights to the board members about membership changes, perhaps large disbursements or unusual disbursements. I try to anticipate the board members' questions about the financial report, and I put those in the notes in the body of the email that I attach the financial report to. Item 5 on invoicing dues. I try very hard to invoice the dues 1 month ahead of time. So for instance, if the dues is going to be due on July 1, I'll try to send the invoices out around June 1 so that people have plenty of notice to be able to remit their dues in a timely manner by the due date. I would also suggest having, if your club doesn't, having a written policy for termination of membership due to non-payment of dues. I have seen over the years so many clubs struggle with terminating members who do not pay their dues, and they hang on, keep them on the Rotary rolls, thinking and hoping that they may come back, when in fact they don't, and then all of a sudden they owe the club hundreds of dollars of past dues, and they just walk away and don't see the importance of paying their debt before they leave. So if anyone would like written policies on this, our club has developed those. I have those in writing. Just send me an email. I'm happy to share those with you. And what this does is it takes the awkwardness of having to terminate a member for non-payment of dues off of any individual Rotarian, and it puts it back to the Rotarian who has not paid their dues, and then they are in essence terminating themselves. And it makes it much cleaner, much simpler. It eliminates any debate at board meetings. It's just simple, whatever your policy is. If you don't have the dues paid by X date, then according to the club policy, your membership is automatically terminated, and that's what the secretary and treasurer do. It has worked really well for many years. I've used this policy And again, I'm happy to share that with anyone because it just takes the awkwardness off of the board of directors because the member, due to lack of payment, has actually terminated their own membership. Item 6, be flexible. Not all clubs can do this. I realize that some clubs have many more members, but we're a smaller club, and so I'm very flexible to the club members' needs. I invoice some people quarterly, some people semi-annually, and one person wants to pay once a year, which is great because the treasurer is a volunteer person, and so the fewer invoices that I have to send out means the fewer checks I have to collect and the fewer follow-ups I need to send of notices for hey, you haven't paid your dues yet. So it's nice to be flexible for the members if that's something that you feel you can do. Yes, it's a little more record keeping in determining who pays quarterly, every 6 months, or annually. But if you can, I think that's a really nice service to offer the club members. Item 7, review DAC DB monthly and enter additions and terminations of membership promptly. I cannot emphasize this enough, and this also is in coordination with the club secretary and membership chair. If you review this information to ensure that the listed members in DAC DB are up to date, then your billings from Rotary International for dues will be accurate. And the point here being is that when Rotary International invoices their dues, it's based on the Rotary International membership roster, which is connected to DAC DB. It gets uploaded from DAC DB to the RI database. Those are measured at January 1st, which is the semi-annual period, and July 1 at the beginning of each new Rotary year. So if you have members that have been gone from your club for a while, but they're not actually terminated in the database, those will be billed to your club by Rotary International, and Rotary no longer adjusts the invoices once they have been sent out. So it's on you as the club member to ensure the accuracy of the DAC DB database. And also it helps with P-mail. When you're using the P-mail function to send emails to club members, it's really embarrassing when a board member gets an email back from a former member saying, hey, take me off this list because I'm no longer a member and I'm not interested in receiving the Rotary emails. So by entering the new people in a timely manner and terminating the people who are no longer in the club in a timely manner, this ensures the accuracy of your email database so that the club emails and your club information are going to the correct people. Item 8, separate financials and treasurer for large fundraisers. I've learned this the hard way over time. For a small club fundraiser, it's not a big deal, but if you are the treasurer and your club holds a large fundraiser, I strongly suggest having a separate person be the treasurer for the large fundraiser. It does not have to be you as the club treasurer unless your club insists, but oftentimes it's easier to keep that information separately for the large fundraiser and then funnel that in collective groups into the club treasury and into the club checking account. Item 9 is to file your IRS 990N by November 15th or earlier. This is often a missed step of club treasurers, especially if you're a new treasurer. You may not know that this is a requirement, but the Internal Revenue Service requires a filing annually for the previous Rotary year. So the form that is due on November 15th is for the Rotary year that most recently ended on June 30th. And for most clubs in our district, you'll be able to file the 990 postcard form. And what you do is you just go online to the Rotary or to the IRS website, and it asks you some basic information about your club. It confirms that your income of the club is under a certain dollar amount. And for the majority of our clubs in the district, this will be the case. And then you just click a button and the form is filed. It really doesn't take very long, and it's easy to do repetitively from year to year. Some clubs may be over that income limit and would need to file a longer form 990 form. But if the club fails to file this very important IRS form, then after a period of time, the IRS will not recognize the club as an official 501c4, and you will no longer be able to have a current club status. So this is really important. And what I do is I go online sometime in July. The IRS doesn't always have the website up and going that early to be able to file the form that early, but sometimes they do. But I try to do it in July and August to get that filing done, just so that you know it's done. So you're not scrambling on November 12th saying, how do I do this and where do I go to file it? And then it helps you not forget either. So as soon as that June 30 Rotary year closes for your club, be thinking about filing that IRS form 990 early, just to be done with it and get it out of the way. And number 10 is to have fun, knowing you are a very important part of making a difference in Rotary. Rotary is fun. The administrative part of Rotary is not always very exciting, but it is very important to the inner workings of a club, and it can be a lot of fun. So I encourage everyone to have fun, whether your role is as secretary or treasurer. So thanks for joining us this morning, and Jane, I'll turn it back over to you.
That's great. Lynn, that was excellent. Thank you so much. During your presentation, we had a couple of chat comments and a little back and forth about some policy things. So I encourage you to open that up when you can, Lynn, and take a look. Lynn's available too. I just want to let you know, when you received our links for this webinar, at the bottom of those emails, and you probably received 3 or 4 over the period of a week, reminding you of the webinar and the link to use to join us today, are all the presenters' names and emails. So if you need to reach out to Lynn and you don't have access to that right away, that's at least the first place you can go to find that. Okay, so I'm going to do a very quick, and unfortunately, we don't have time to do an actual DAC DB demonstration. So I'm just going to actually talk about DAC DB, and then hopefully it'll provide a little information. It's a clunky database, as you all are probably well aware. So this is our top 10 for Dang That DAC DB. So number 10, if you get into our database, district database, DAC DB, and you're frustrated because you can't do what you want to do, it might be your level of access. And so that's something you can check on your member profile in your My Data section or member profile section to see your level of access. A level 1 is just every member starts out as a level 1. A level 2 is a committee chair for your club. Level 3 would be an event manager, somebody that might want to add input events to the DAC-DB calendar so that those things migrate to your website, should you use one of the DAC-DB website templates. Level 4 is a club officer that when you establish folks as your club officers, they should then move to a level 4. Sometimes things don't integrate the way that they should. So let's just double check that. For those of you that are president-elects, presidents, secretaries, and treasurers, do double check that you're currently at a level 4 in DAC-DB. Level 5 is for assistant governors so that they have better access to the clubs in their areas. Level 6 is a district administration level. Level 7, we're bumping up here, are account managers, and level 8s are the bigwigs, right? So they tend to be even at the zone level and not just even within our district. Again, if you're frustrated with not being able to do something you think you should do in your club role, first thing to do is check your level of access, and we can review that and see if it is appropriate for what you need to do. It might be that you just don't have the right access to do what you want to do. Okay, next up, input those club officers ASAP. You've heard that a couple of times today already. You should have received an email from Rotary International dated March 20th, highlighting what Rotary International would like for you to input, and that is president, secretary, treasurer, Rotary Foundation chair, membership chair, and we in our district ask you to input the president-elect as well. There are lots of other positions that you can add, but those are really the basics that make the biggest difference. If you're using DAC-DB, and you fill in your club officers there, all of that is going to sync with Rotary International. There's a way to double check just to make sure it's synced up, a special button called RI Verify. And I have sent along in an email yesterday a DAC-DB cheat sheet on how to input your club officers and then follow the RI verification tool to be sure that both sides, DAC-DB and Rotary International, know who your club officers and leadership will be for 2019 and 2020. What that does, once it's synced, as John mentioned, it will help create and correct your level of access for My Rotary then. And then that way you have what you need, the tools that you need online to do the job the best that you can do. Hope that is making sense for folks. Number 8, this is a big one for me as district administration. We really need in the DAC-DB database a mailing address for your club, not just for your members, but there's a special portion. Once you click on your club, over on the left-hand side, it says club information, and you can, your secretary and other leadership, president and treasurer, can input in there an actual mailing address. If you do not have a PO box, just designate someone who, maybe your secretary, because they go year to year, oftentimes in clubs, their home address. Because we want to be sure that clubs get things like their district grant checks, right? Last year we had a difficult time identifying addresses for some of the clubs that received district grants, and we want to be sure people get their money because they're doing good things out there. In addition, occasionally, every year, there are a few formal invitations that are sent to clubs to be shared club-wide, whether that's installation or conference or special foundation dinners. That mailing address for your club is just as important as your personal mailing address in the DAC-DB database. So number 7, check out your member profile. Every member should do it probably once, twice a year. Make sure everything's updated in there. That's either, you can call it your member profile, or sometimes on the screen it will show up as my data. Here's kind of a funny thing. You want to put an email address in there that you actually read. I know that's just like a concept maybe that folks haven't thought about, but we have a lot of people that say that they aren't receiving district email correspondence communication. And when I double check that email with them, they'll say, well, I don't read that email. So checking your own member data and assuring that the email in there is something you actually read is a really important thing to do. And just as a quiet aside, by the way, if you send P-mail to your club as a club leader, you can track to see who is reading your email. And that might be a helpful way to know if you are reaching the people you need to reach in your club. There is a new part of the system called P-text that's kind of cool. And you can actually send a text message to your club membership. It does require a little extra piece of info on each member's profile of their cell phone carrier. But recently we had in our club a service project that we had to cancel the day before, and having that P-text would have made canceling that so much more seamless than relying on people to read their email or check Facebook. It's an excellent tool for those kind of quick communication situations. And when club members say, why do you need my birthday? John kind of highlighted that a little bit at the Rotary International. It's absolutely vital to clear and accurate club statistics. Your birth year is not going to show up to anybody. It's internal to the system. But that statistic is gathered so that when you look at your club information, one of the choices on your left-hand frame is club statistics, and you'll get really good statistics on age, tenure within the club, and gender. So that's really helpful to have the birth date in there. And remember, DACDB has a very strict privacy policy. Your information is secure. They do not sell their database information to anyone. So try and assure your club membership that it is a safe and secure database. One thing I would suggest is that you, as a club officer, you might want to consider redoing your internal club application. If you have a club application that you use on your own, you might redo that application so that it aligns and matches up to what DACDB asks for, so that when you approve someone for membership, your secretary already has all that information that can be readily input and ready to go without having to maybe chase a new member to get additional information from them. All right, I do want to tell a funny story that, and I'm sorry that I don't remember who told me this, but it's within our district, is that when they have members that don't put in their birthday, they actually make them 100 years old. And just in a way to kind of encourage them to get that birthday in there with their year as well. All right, so DACDB, it gets a bad rap. Number 5, it's a one-stop shop, and it really can help you get more bang for your buck. So newsletter templates, pretty easy to use in there. Then you can automatically email them out to your membership. Website templates, especially the new Easy and Beautiful website template, is very seamless with the information in DACDB. So if you input your club leadership into DACDB and you use the Easy and Beautiful template, your club leadership syncs up, and there's a link to your club leadership on your website. It's quite nice the way that works. If you use DACDB for your calendar, it will sync up automatically and display on your club website. So you get a little more bang for your buck. You're not recreating things over and over. And hopefully that'll save you some time and encourage you to do some more promotion and marketing online for folks that might be looking for service opportunities and clubs in your community. All right, the invoicing piece, I'm glad Lynn touched on this, and I'll just reiterate it. Cleaning up that club membership in June prior to that July 1 deadline, and in December prior to that January 1 deadline is really going to save you some money. So I will just share that recently we assisted a club. In fact, John helped me with this one, where in DAC-DB, they had maybe 20 members, but in Rotary International, they had more than 40. And so we had to spend some time with the club assuring a clean membership database so that they weren't, and they had been getting overcharged for quite a while. So we want to help you sync that up and make sure that you're getting the correct bill statement for your dues, your district dues, and your Rotary International dues. And doing that is making sure in those months of June and December that someone's going through and assuring that your membership is accurate and current. I like Lynn's idea of doing it every month. That way it doesn't become a huge burden and you don't feel overwhelmed if there's things going on with your club that need to be corrected. There's also a neat little tool, and again, I'm sorry we're not doing an online DAC-DB. I'm willing to do that at another time and would be happy to schedule that, where you have a button on your new DAC-DB interface called RI Compare, and you can see very clearly where RI might have certain information about your club members and DAC-DB has certain information and they might not match. And so doing that RI Compare once in a while is a good way to clean up your database and also make sure that you have accurate addresses, as well as Rotary International has the accurate address too, for magazines and foundation mailings and things of that nature. So number 3, help me. The one thing DAC-DB does really, really well is that they will help you. Rotary International is the same way. If you get caught on the RI website, My Rotary, Club Central, you now know you have an awesome resource that will help you with that. There's ways to get help. Same with DAC-DB. DAC-DB has a fantastic help button, searchable. You will find step-by-step instructions on how to do what you want to do. In addition, DAC-DB just held in January of this year a user conference, and all of that was over webinar, and you can rewatch all of those sessions, and they are 15-minute segments on how to add a member, how to change your member profile, how to upload a photo, easy step-by-step things from a member's perspective all the way up to district administration and how to do that. So please don't hesitate to use your help. In addition, I have found that emailing DAC-DB staff is a fast and easy way to get the help that you need, and they are there for you and they respond quickly, and oftentimes they will correct your problem for you and then tell you how to do it again in the future. So don't hesitate. You might think, oh, all those help sections, on other websites and stuff. No, the DAC-DB one is really helpful, and so please do take a look at it. Number 2 is, and we talked about this in the chat section a little bit with Amy Brown, schedule a program about DAC-DB. And if you need help with that, there are lots of people in the district that can help you do that. You can either do it as a program where everyone maybe does a training session with DAC-DB, or you can just let your club off the hook for a program and have someone sit and update everybody's and verify everybody's membership information while you're there. It's a good thing to do. And we can help you with that. Feel free to reach out to me and we can find somebody that can sit down with your club and help you make those changes. So number 1 is please use DACDB, please. It's there for you. The last I looked, okay, we had 7 clubs that didn't yet have their president-elects in the system for next year. That means that those people are not getting the information that they need right now from the district about fulfilling their role. In addition, we currently, of our 46 clubs, have 5 clubs that don't seem to be using DACDB. And I'll be working with the assistant governors to see if we can't reach out to them to get everyone on board and using the same system, because it's just key to our district communication. Of those 41 clubs that are using DACDB, we have 3 right now that are not syncing to Rotary International. So there's issues there. They're doing double duty. If they're inputting their club officers, they're doing it in DACDB, but they're also going to have to do it at RI. And so we want to, reach out to them. I'll be talking to the assistant governors again to reach out to those clubs to see if they've made an intentional choice or if they would like some help getting those synced up on that. So that was quick and dirty on DACDB, and we are right on schedule as far as I can tell. So I am going to unmute our fearless district governor-elect, Julie Dobski, and hand it over to her. If you have questions, I will be monitoring the Q&A in the chat here in just a few minutes and try to get to those as soon as possible. All right, Julie, all yours.
Thank you so much. Boy, Lynn was right. Every meeting I attend, I learn something. So thank you all today for joining us, and that's a wrap. Just a few items of business before we say goodbye. I want to thank you all so much for joining our very first webinar. I also want to thank past District Governor Liz Skinner. Thank you, Liz, for your work on the district's behalf with the Rotary International Council on Legislation. Thanks for the update. Great comments and great feedback. Thank you to John Hands, Senior Officer of Club and District Support at Rotary International in Evanston. Great training. John, you're always available and you returned very quickly any questions we have. So thank you so much. Thank you, Deb West, our incoming Assistant Governor Coordinator. Susie Tungate, past President of the award-winning Gibson City Rotary Club. Lynn Landon, Secretary and Treasurer for Bloomington Normal Daybreak Rotary Club, and Jane Chamberlain, Rotary District 6490 Administration, for their expertise, insights, and information. And Jane, thank you so much for helping to put this together, because I'm just not into these, and I think it was just great. I just really enjoyed working with you on this. And my assistant, Liz, thank you for being here, and Glenn, thank you for helping also. And it's just been great working with all of you. There's a couple things coming up that I don't want you to have to miss, and we will count on you to promote them to your club members also. Now on June 30th, which you might have heard, beginning at 4 o'clock, please join me at Illinois State University's Bone Student Center for Installation Gala. We're going to have a wonderful celebration, celebrating and installing our district leadership with a fantastic meal and great music. Invite your club members and their spouses to join you. Registration will be available in mid-May on DACDB. The event costs $30 per person. Now in early August, there's a field trip to Evanston to visit Rotary International. This is going to be open to all club members throughout the district. There will be more information in upcoming newsletters and our district website. Your club's district grant application is due September 1st. Again, watch for more information in upcoming newsletters. Our district conference is set for October 18th and 19th in Bloomington at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel and Conference Center. We're pulling all the stops this year to revitalize the conference in new ways to make it meaningful for all. We promise this conference will appeal to new members as well as seasoned members with something for everyone. And World Polio Day is October 24th. We are this close. It's going to be amazing when we can all celebrate the eradication of this horrifying disease. Until then, hopefully we will mark this day throughout the district with special events in all of our communities. Now, who is ready to win some money for their club? I will, actually I have Mike Stepp here, who's the district governor elect after July 1st.
Yeah, July
And he's going to start, and you have to be present to win. Okay, we're going to pull the first one. Hopefully you're here. It is Decatur Metro. Are you here, Decatur? Metro, I should say.
If someone's online from Decatur Metro, use the chat box and let us know
I'm here.
you are here to be a winner.
Yep, got to be here. Sorry, Phil. He's from
You still got
Decatur.
another chance. with
Yeah,
you,
let's
ready?
see what let's see. Rantoul. I don't know if they're here. Rantoul, are you here? We're going to keep going. Okay. We have them all in. Robinson, would they be here? Maybe?
Mm,
Okay, let's keep.
I guess I could.
You could. Robinson, nope. We have Effingham Sunrise. Keep going. Villa Grove. I don't know. You're all included. Oh, this is a good one. Bloomington Normal Daybreak.
They're there.
Huh? They're here.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one.
Yeah,
We got one winner.
one winner, I believe. Let's see if they're going to chat. Hopefully they didn't get off too early. Joe, are you there? Yes, he's here.
Here. Woohoo.
Yeah,
Our first
thank
winner.
you.
Yay!
I could, Gilman, probably not. Let's go with Vandalia. Are you here? Sorry, but we have all the clubs in there. The hope was to have every club attend.
Yeah.
How about, is there anybody from Gibson City?
Awesome.
Yay. And we have another one. I think Decatur, Phil, it's for you. So I think we have the three, right? Decatur, Gibson City, and Bloomington Normal Daybreak. Each club will be awarded $500 for their club. So thank you so much for that. Let's see. We have made note of our club winners, and we're going to be in touch next week for the best address to send the check. And I'd like to repeat the poll from earlier. You should see it coming up on your computer screen. How are you feeling now? Let's see how everybody's feeling now. I hope energized, excited, not terrified, ready to go.
Best year ever.
Best year ever, huh? So we're working on the poll right now. Just remember, if you're in a group setting, get your responses to the lead in the group.
They're not all asleep, are they?
Are we awake?
Nope, everybody's voting.
Okay. Is it okay?
We're at 75% voting right now, 78%.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and let you see
Okay.
whatever everybody says.
Ready to go.
Good results, good.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're really excited about that. I think this is going to be a great year ahead. Everybody's going to be successful and fun for every club in our district. Really, Rotary does connect the world, and that's the way I feel. So as you leave the webinar today, please take one more minute to answer a few simple questions for us. We really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for coming out on this lovely morning. Don't forget June 30th installation. We'll all be there. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye, John.
Nice job, Jane. You did a great job.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay.